It's work I'm passionate about. I'm currently an executive director of marketing. A senior chief communications officer is no question that it's a step up.
It took 9 weeks for Greg to get hired for his senior officer role. Part 2 of his story is coming up. This is the Get Hired Show. Today's episode, how to get the employers and recruiters to come to you. Give me some likes, give me some loves. If you're eager to learn about today's topic, I want to know that you're excited about this. I'm Jewel Bracey DeMaio, principal job search strategist and executive coach, helping 6- and 7-figure directors, VPs, and C-level leaders get hired in 90 days or less, guaranteed. The problem is, when your search efforts are not getting you the results that you're looking for, what else is there for you to do? And it's particularly frustrating when you believe you're already doing everything that you possibly can. It becomes disheartening, especially since in the good old days, the recruiters and headhunters were hot on you, calling you within a day, even within hours. But that's simply not the case today. It's difficult to plug into solid recruiters or a large number of recruiters. Sometimes the recruiters that do call, they get all your information, then they disappear with no feedback on the status of the position. And if you don't want to sit there making outbound cold calls to these recruiters, hoping that someone will give you the time of day, 90% of them don't respond anyway. Other times, the recruiters are from a different country, and several of them may call you about the same position, usually a position that's too far away, a lower level than what you need, with a salary that you made 15 years ago. When the recruiters aren't coming inbound to you, it's a problem because it means you're not standing out. Getting them to come to you requires showcasing a unique blend of expertise. Do that before building up your number of connections on LinkedIn, before reaching out to all kinds of people, before even attempting to navigate all that LinkedIn has to offer. Showcasing your expertise needs to happen first. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you feel like presenting your expertise may need some work. Another point is that particularly senior level job seekers often have extensive experience, but may struggle to convey their leadership quotient. And what you have to understand is that employers want candidates who not only have a rich history, but also exhibit leadership success. Getting employers to come to you requires demonstrating a trajectory towards future leadership. And I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. Tell me in the comments if you're confident that you look like a leader, or if you're now realizing that you may just look like a doer. Now, at the same time, you have to effectively balance humility and expertise. You can't just downplay what you offer. Striking the right balance is an art. Confidently showcase your knowledge and accomplishments without setting yourself up to look overqualified. And if overqualification has been a brick wall that you've run into more than once by this point, let me know that in the comments as well. When it comes to getting the recruiters and employers to come inbound to you, it's important to think about how you're presenting your professional story. Is it compelling? It needs to be in order to set you apart in this crowded and tightly competitive market. Additionally, are you positioning yourself as a thought leader? Recruiters are looking for forward thinkers. So it's well worth it to be strategically sharing insights and expertise and valuable, impactful content. That's one solid way to build influence, enhance your visibility, and show yourself to be an asset in the eyes of the employers and the recruiters. And once you get a reasonably steady flow of recruiters and employers climbing into your inbox, what that means is you're the one having more exclusive conversations. I promise you that recruiter is not calling 100 people, not even 50. It only took Greg 9 weeks to get hired, and his story is not the exception, it's the rule. In our LinkedIn recommendations, Michael talks about how our suggestions to rework his LinkedIn profile allowed him to find his current new position as a chief financial officer. Wendy told us that a recruiter found her on LinkedIn and called her the next day. Within 3 weeks, she got hired for the job that she has now. And Lynn got hired over the holidays. She said in her recommendation that she got a lot more executive recruiters calling her for potential opportunities, and she landed a VP of operations role that only took about 6 weeks. So let's get into this in a practical way, so you learn exactly what to do to get the employers and recruiters to come to you. Then I want us to hear part 2 of Greg's story and how we use this particular strategy to get him hired in about 9 weeks. And finally, we'll take a look on the screen so that you get actionable steps to implement in order to get the recruiters and decision makers you need coming into your inbox. I'll share this. I had a client who, before he came on board with us, had gone down a path of applying for numerous roles that looked interesting, but he wasn't getting anywhere. Now, you can tell me in the comments if that's happened to you at any point in your search. What I told him was that he was engaging in a lot of activity, but it clearly wasn't translating into productivity. And I also want to hear if you've had a light bulb moment just now of realizing that you're doing a lot of things, a lot of activity, but that's not manifesting as forward movement. And then that's when he made the decision to engage professional help. Friends, this is about hiring a professional to do what professionals specialize in. That's how you have to think about it. There's a big difference between painting your own house and hiring a painting company. Painting is not your job. Painting is not your profession. Painting is not your expertise. They'll do it better and faster and deliver the result that you need. And what's important is to act in your own best interest. In this case, when it comes to your career, is it in your own best interest to struggle and maybe get the result you need eventually, or work with a professional who does this for people day in and day out, whose stories you can hear right here? So in this case, he made the decision to execute hand in hand with us. And the work that we did together was critical to him changing the approach. It starts with the language that we use. And in fact, he said there were some things I wrote on his behalf that he would have never thought to do. And he started to notice that the interest in him was picking up. A recruiter found him and called him. And between that time and when he got the offer, took about 10 weeks from start to finish. He landed a senior director role with one of the largest construction scaffolding manufacturers in North America. Now, here's specifically what we did to get the recruiters and employers to come to him. We changed his strategy from just searching, applying, and submitting all day long to a strategy of positioning him to get found by the right people. If you want to get found, you have to be searchable. This is so critically important. So what's important to do is take on the recruiter's perspective. And I know that that can be hard when you're in the midst of job search, because of course you're thinking about you and what you need and what you're trying to do. I want you to take a step back from that and think about the recruiter's perspective. So first of all, ask yourself, what is the recruiter searching for? What is that recruiter typing into the search bar when they're sitting there on LinkedIn on their Recruiter Lite account searching? First of all, what is the recruiter not searching for? Let's talk about that. I'm speaking specifically of what they are typing into the search bar. It's not detail-oriented. It's not motivated. It's not self-starter. It's not professional. It's not team player. Okay? So I understand why this can be hard. It can be hard because the list that I just ran down, all those words are in all the ads. The problem with that is that those words tend to be towards the bottom of the ad. And the keywords that I want you to pay attention to are very likely in line 1 of the ad. You have to know, and I'm going to walk you through how to select the right keywords. Because when you don't know, you default to good communication skills and being self-motivated and those things that I ran down. What's also important to understand is that all those keywords apply to everybody. Everybody's going to say they're self-motivated. Everybody's going to say they have good communication skills. Plus, think about the opposite of some of these terms. So if you don't have good communication skills, what does that really look like? What does that really mean? You don't know how to come into an office or go on a Zoom and talk to anybody in a professional and pleasant way. So saying these things shouldn't happen. These things literally go without saying. You can go without saying you have good communication skills. You can go without saying that you're self-motivated. You're an adult. You're a working professional. If you're not self-motivated, what are you? It doesn't add any value for you to say, oh, I'm a team player. Of course you're a team player. You and everybody. Everybody is a team player. So these are all the things that the recruiter is not typing in. Now, let's have a better understanding of what that recruiter is searching for. And guess what, friends? It's the same thing you're searching for. That's what I want you to think about. When you're looking for a role as director of marketing, that's what you're typing in, director of marketing. When you're looking for a role as COO, that's what you're typing in, COO. So the same thing that you're looking for, that's what I wanted to say in your story, on your resume, in your LinkedIn profile. That is a very, very key tip in a way that you have to think about approaching this thing. In order to make yourself searchable, you're going to do that by using the same keywords that you are typing into the computer. Let's have Greg tell us part 2 of his success story, because getting the recruiter to come to him ended up being the key to him getting hired. Would you say that that those people who were looking at you, whether they were places you applied or not, overall, when you're looking, Greg, at who's viewed your profile after we did that, would you say that those people were at least relevant to you?
Oh, yeah.
Were they in industries and everything that you were interested in and in fields that you were interested in?
Yeah, no question. I mean, there were recruiters who looked at it. Again, my experience is probably a little more narrow, and I'm definitely more suited in the education or media space. But it was definitely getting looked at. I would certainly say it opened the door to places that wouldn't open before. And I think that's the whole point.
That's excellent. That's exactly what I want the LinkedIn to do. You know, LinkedIn does give you the data and the insights of who's viewed your profile, but here's something that you really want to see, friends, be different. So a lot of times when people come to me, the complaint is, well, people are looking at my profile, but nobody's calling, nobody's emailing. So that problem, that's a conversion problem. You have an audience, that audience is not converting. And a lot of times, well, there's information all over the internet about what makes for a good resume, what makes for a good profile, all kinds of things. I only have one criteria that will tell us whether the resume is good, whether the LinkedIn is good. There can be a million fancy things about either of these foundational pieces, but here's a litmus test. Is that LinkedIn getting you calls back? Is that LinkedIn getting you emails for opportunities that are on your level, that are reasonably what you want? Too often the complaint is, okay, I'm getting a lot of views, but no one's, reaching out to me. So that's a problem. And then when we look at those views, because that's one of the first things we do, I take a look at the back end of your LinkedIn. Well, who's looking at you in the first place? Well, you got to kind of ask yourself, are these people random from all over the place, or if they're all types of industries, all types of everything? Quite frankly, those are not the numbers that you want. What you want, as far as who's looking at you need for those people to be relevant to you. You need for those people to be in the industries that you like, in the locations that you want. Let's get those to be the people who comprise the numbers, and then we tweak it from there. But getting calls and getting inquiries, that's the mark of a LinkedIn profile that really, really works. So take us to this interview process. Did you say it was 4 interviews? My goodness, in a week and a half, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, they
walk
move
us
quick.
through. Yeah, walk us through what happened there.
You get the cursory interview, I think, which I would call the confirmation of competency, right? They want to make sure that everything that's on paper is accurate. And then I went in front of, it was Zoom, obviously, because I was an out-of-state candidate, and there was a large group panel interview. And that one's really important because, I find a lot of the interviews to be pretty stuffy, and it's really hard to be able to find pick your spots to interject a little personality and make your argument. And I didn't feel like I had to make the argument. That's why I feel like the paperwork worked in a way based on the questions I was getting. They weren't competency based. They were more fit. They were more personality. That job had been done, and that's the first time. That was the first time in an interview that I really didn't feel I had to go in and defend my qualifications. It was really just more talking about proper fit.
So this is good. You didn't have to prove your competency going in. You're saying they already understood.
Yeah, it was
okay,
done. You did that.
yes.
You did that work. And the other part of
Wonderful.
that, and the third piece, is the cover letter, right? I hate cover letters. I've hired hundreds of people, and I think cover letters in whole are garbage, right? It's a bunch of flowery language that says nothing, but we're obligated to write it. And that, to me, was that other piece of is you actually wrote a cover letter I looked at and I went, now that might change my mind, right? That has something to say. It's not a regurgitation of the resume. It's, again, making another piece of the argument, and the third stab at the argument between the resume, LinkedIn, and the cover letter. And it worked. And I actually, I took a couple of those and modified them for other opportunities. And it was like, it felt right, and I think that's the part is if you sit back and go, are you willing to spend the money to do something that works, that makes it feel right, that gets you to your goal? Do it.
I think this is so important because the other thing that I work with people on is what I call the interview accelerator. And the interview accelerator really has 2 goals. What I'm looking to do is get you more interviews, and I'm looking to make sure that you move through the interview process, which is what you were talking about. 4 interviews in the offer. I actually call that going around the bases. First, second, third base, home plate. You should be getting an offer by that point in time. So if you're not getting interviews, I solved that problem. If you're getting first interviews and never moving past that, I address that problem. But the other thing that you're making me think of in this story is that it accelerated your process in that you could skip the part where you had to kind of defend your dissertation and defend all the qualifications for the job because they already understood that you had that. And what I really love about that is because what I coach people about is the importance of moving the conversation from past history, which they should be able to see on the resume, people can read. The interview should be a couple minutes maybe about that. But most of the interview needs to be about what you're going to come into their organization and do. That's what you're there to talk about. That's what the 2-way conversation between professionals and business is about. It's not about, or it shouldn't be about, going over every blessed point on your resume because they read it, they called you, they liked it enough. Now you should be talking about what you're going to do going forward. That's really the point. So I'm glad the resume did that job, for you. So the interviewing, when was the last time that you interviewed? How long ago?
Prior to this?
Yeah.
Probably 5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months.
I mean,
Okay,
there were cursory phone calls. There was there's submit some video answers, but it'd been literally 5 or 6 months before the hiring manager or the committee was sitting in front of you firing questions.
Okay, all right. Now, you also touched on something else, which is that you really have a few irons on the fire that were looking pretty good. So, tell us about some of the other opportunities. Even though you accepted this one, there's
Sure.
always more than one opportunity going on. So, what else went on that really turned out pretty well?
I was approached through this process for a vice president of communications for a major university. Unfortunately, it was a place in the Midwest that I just couldn't move to. I'm very water based. I like to jet ski and boat, and moving to the mid Midwest wasn't really an option. But that was one where I cracked another level. One was in law enforcement and doing communications for law enforcement, and that was intriguing. So that was kind of like, okay. One in healthcare that was probably not the right fit, but I was glad the door opened. But again, all five of these certainly had come within the 65 days.
Excellent, excellent. And was some of that a combination of folks coming to you, or was it 100% you
No,
putting your resume
it was
out
a
there?
combo. It was probably 65-35, me soliciting, 35% finding me.
Okay, wonderful. Excellent, excellent. All right. So then talk to us about why you picked this. Why did it end up being this opportunity?
Sure. It was a mission that I was passionate about. From a salary point of view, I've been fortunate to have, be well compensated in my last several stops. So I was really worried in this move, especially if I was to cross to a different sector, was having to take a pay cut. And this job was not a pay cut. And in fact, it's moving to an area that when you factor the cost of living into is amazing. To sell a house in one place for 700 and buy one for 400 and have less taxes and all of that, it is life changing in that respect. So no, it's a win all the way around. It's work I'm passionate about. Having a team of a large team that I oversee, having a title that's a step up, because one of my other things was I'm currently an executive director of marketing. If I was to go like to a marketing director position, I don't know if I want that on my resume, right? That looks like a step down. A senior chief communications officer is no question that it's a step up. And to me, at 50, and that was one of the things I wanted, was I want this to be a step up in all ways, right? I want it to be whole in all ways, and this certainly is.
Yeah, yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking so many boxes are checked off, right?
Yeah, all
And
of them.
right. And so what I have found in doing this work is that, the conversation always extends to beyond a resume. That's what we talk about in the first place. What are you going to do with your resume? What are you going to do with LinkedIn? I have recommendations for that. Okay, fine. But the conversation is really bigger because it's not even just about your next job. It's really about the next step in your career trajectory. And that has to be right from a couple of different perspectives. Professionally, it has to be correct. Financially, it has to be correct. It has to be correct for your spouse, your household, and really your life. That's what we're talking about. So I don't really just have conversations here about a resume, LinkedIn, some contacts. Obviously, you're getting a resume, LinkedIn, some contacts. You're getting those things. But this is really about guiding you into the next step that fits with the vision that you had for your life. And that's what you and I have talked about. When
Right.
you're
You
moving,
literally
you're
climb
moving
into
to the
people's
place you
heads,
want.
and you have to, I think, because yeah, I think there are plenty of people that can turn around and make your resume better. But you literally do climb into a person's head, capture their motivation, capture their wants and needs of life, and then say, okay, here's how we're going to go about it. It's easy to tell somebody, well, go find somebody that works at that company and make friends with them and get an in that way. But to me, again, and I'm a professional storyteller, right? I've been a journalist in marketing and communications now for almost 30 years. To be told you don't know what your story is, and I can see your story and I can see it in 60 minutes. And then the follow-up conversations we have, we're like, okay, let's keep it going this way, keep it going that way. The peace of mind that gives you and the framework to which to have a conversation, it's all there at that point. You just have to shut up and deliver, or speak and deliver, I guess.
So, Greg, I think I would just love it if you would tell us how all of this feels. How do you feel now that you've achieved this new job?
Oh, it's incredibly satisfying. I mean, obviously, you immediately have other things you need to deal with. Like I need to sell a house really quick right now, but I'm not worried about where I'm going or what I'm doing, and it's incredibly liberating. And I would say if you're sitting there frustrated, don't suffer in silence. Right. For so long, people sit there and they just get frustrated with the job search, and they go back and they look and they're like, what is it about this? And then you start having that confidence sag. Don't, tag in experts, right? Where if you're doing a remodel on your house, hire somebody that's qualified, that knows what they're doing, and don't try to DIY it. And this is one of those cases I'm really glad I didn't. I'm really glad that I got Jewel involved, and it's off to the next adventure.
The way Greg turned his job search around was by taking the first step, the same first step you're invited to take as well, friends. What we do is hold a free new job game plan with you, and you can get it by going to 90dayoffer.com/game plan. Your new job game plan is with me or specialists on the team. Here's what we're going to talk about. What's going on in your current job search situation right now, why you're searching right now, what's put you out into this job market, how the search is going right now, and how we may be able to help. It's important for us to be able to hear about your story and about your situation in order to recommend what will be helpful for you. 90dayoffer.com/game plan is a place to go. New job game plan calls about 15 minutes. We'll answer all the questions you could have possibly thought of, plus probably ones that you didn't even think to ask. I want to make sure that you learn how to get found by the right people, who are the employers and recruiters. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's say that I want to get a position as director of sales. So I'm just going to pick one of these, director of sales and marketing, and let me make sure that this ad is meaty enough and substantive enough, and it definitely is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take note of the key components of this ad. So about this job, okay, we don't necessarily need that. The Hilton College Station, all right, so this is basically going to be about the employer. We don't necessarily need that. When it comes down to position profile, let's go ahead and copy the position profile. Let's go ahead and copy the desired skills and qualifications. We don't need the benefits package. We don't need an overview of the company. Okay, so we've copied what we need to copy. And then I want us to go over to a handy little tool called worditout.com. Worditout.com. Okay. And we're just going to click on the nice plus sign that says create. And there's a block that says original text. The original text is the ad. So let's paste the ad in there. And then we're going to click generate. Now, in case the result comes out to be a font or a color that is an assault on your vision, like this one is for me, then I'm just going to go over to the upper left and I'm going to click regenerate. It gives us the same result, but it looks better. So this one looks pretty good. Now, this role is director of sales. You see how sales is front and center and the biggest word in this word cloud? So that means that your expertise probably needs to begin with sales. Okay? It doesn't begin with team player. It doesn't begin with Microsoft Word. No, it begins with sales. This is a director level role. So the very first area of expertise that I recommend here is going to be strategic sales leadership. Another area of expertise could be sales and marketing. Another area of expertise, I see the word management towards the upper left. Why don't we say sales management or sales team management? What else can we say? Let's pick something else where we're talking about, okay, development. I would say prospect development. I would say business development. So what Worded Out allows us to do is put together 2-word keyword phrases that focus on the core duties of the job. The 2 biggest words here are sales and marketing. So that means that's what all of your expertise really should be about. And I recommend 2-word keyword phrases. I don't recommend sales. I recommend sales management. It can be 3 words, strategic sales leadership. But you want to use a tool like Word It Out, because Word It Out will never have you coming up with things like self-motivated and forward thinker. Nothing like that. All right. Now let's go to an example of how we put this into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to where on the LinkedIn profile the keywords need to be. And the first place the keywords need to be going to be in the skyline headline. So this is what we came up with for Javier as an example. Fortune 500 marketing executive specializing in. Let's just stop right there. We already know who this guy is. He's a Fortune 500 marketing executive. Okay. What does he specialize in? These are the key words that come straight from Word It Out. So when I did a Word It Out for him, we came up with strategic marketing leadership. We came up with omni-channel marketing. We came up with brand communications. We came up with email marketing and direct mail marketing. So that's going to be critical because, once again, in adopting the recruiter's perspective, when the recruiter is going up into the search area, I guarantee you he's putting in marketing executive, VP of marketing, strategic marketing executive. I guarantee you these are the things that he's searching for. So when it comes to getting found by the recruiters and employers, what's critically important is that you make yourself searchable. And I call this not just a LinkedIn headline, this is a skyline headline, because you have a lot of characters and a lot of space to say 4-5 areas of expertise. In addition to stating the level that you're on, he's on the executive level, in addition to stating your core competency, which is marketing. So what you want to do is take your ad, use Word It Out, and use that to build a skyline headline so that when the recruiter is searching for someone like you, you are the one who comes up in the search. Now, if you want help in getting the employers and recruiters to come to you, make sure that you take advantage right now of our new job game plan at 90dayoffer.com/game plan. It's 15 minutes of us talking about your background story, what's going on in your job search right now, what you're thinking you'd like to do next. If you're not getting enough responses, we'll talk about that. If you're interviewing but not getting offers, we'll talk about that. We talk about whatever point in the job search you're in right now and what you feel like you need help with. The new job game plan is private and one-on-one. Share your story with me or specialists on our team, and you'll get some thoughts and recommendations on what to do next so that you have specific, concrete steps going forward. On the next episode of the Get Hired Show, 3 big mistakes most job seekers make that keep them from getting calls back. Be sure to join us right here Friday at noon Eastern Time.